Hey folks, and welcome back to Ready Steady Podcast. This is another special episode. We're doing episode 42, the UK Games Expo, which is a little ways off at the time of recording. Not much, a little ways off, but by the time you see this, it will be even closer, right around the corner. And here, someone who's been to the UK Games Expo a lot is my co-host Barry.
Once or twice, yes. I think COVID was a problem for doing your numbers, right? So I think 11, this number 11, I'm not sure. But I think it's the 20th anniversary of the Expo. Been running
It is.
quite a long time. And it's been at least 10 years in the NEC. So this is a big celebratory one. You know, good. It's great. Grows every year. You going to put a guess on the numbers for this year? I'll tell you, last year was 42,000 uniques, I want to say.
Okay.
You want to hazard a guess what the growth rate will be this year?
42,000. All right. So do we think it could break 50,000? Is that too much?
That's a hike. I mean, that's a, 20,
That's a huge hike.
20%.
All right. Let's say reckon they'll break 45,000.
All right. I'll take the, that's a good one. I'll take the overs. I'll go 46 or more. So there's the cut.
It's closest without going over, is it? No.
Price is right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been going for a long time as well. I remember, so I've not kept track. It must have been sort of early 2010s that I started going as well, or maybe mid 2010s. But I do remember attending at least one year where they were in the Hilton exclusively.
Yes, I think. And that might be right. Did they go? Were they Hilton, and then they got their first haul over at the NEC? Somebody should do a history timeline.
Well, we can get someone from the expo on here to talk about it. Give us the info so that we don't have to. Anyway, if you must be familiar with the UK Games Expo if you're listening to this podcast. It is in fact the third biggest board game expo in the world after Essenspiel and Gen Con, and it is in Birmingham in the NEC, which is the big convention center there. It's kind of in the middle of sort of nowhere outside of town, right next to Birmingham's tiny airport, and you can get a train to the NEC itself. It's on the train line, and also you can actually fly into the airport, and then there's tons of hotels. It's the kind of expo where you can't really, Barry will talk about Barry's accommodation situation, which is not dissimilar to one I've used in the past. And without discussing this with Barry, when I used it previously, I vowed to do it never again. But
wow, I think I'll be in the same boat.
But it sounds like you've had some really rotten luck. But we can talk about that. But typically, you're in one of the big hotels, and we'll talk about those too. But you're in one of the big hotels around the NEC. There's a number of them. It's helpful if you're with a driver. It's very helpful. You can get into some of the other hotels around the area as well. They're sort of within if you've got a 15-minute drive in you, there's a lot more options that open up. And I know that people have started doing that because it keeps getting bigger and bigger, and the hotels keep going faster and faster.
And not just faster and faster, but cost more and more.
Yes.
I feel like I had a pretty good deal at Hilton the first year I was there. I feel, maybe dreaming, I feel like it was only a few £100 for the 3 nights. And then maybe like 270 or something for the 3 nights. And now it's like 400 quid a night. Looking at some places, and particularly after some of the rooms have gone. I stayed at the Moxie last year, which was already, I can't remember, 220 a night, I want to say. And this year when I looked, 400 a night.
That's at the Moxie.
Like, I'm going on a real holiday for that.
Well, the Moxie is possibly actually the best located hotel in the whole center, because the Hilton is a 10-minute walk from the convention center around a lake. There is sort of like, there's kind of 3 parts really to the convention. There's the main convention center. Now, also, it's hard to convey how big the NEC is. I can talk about it sort of in numbers, but in reality, you just don't understand until you're sort of there. It is huge. It feels North American. It doesn't feel British. It's that big. And it is entirely possible to run a second convention in the convention center, and neither convention will ever cross paths. That's how big it is. And so the UKGE tends to be in one part of it consistently in the low number halls, so hall 1 of the convention center. I mean, they're now expanded up to hall 4, I think, but there is double digits worth of halls. There's an entire upstairs that if you go to the UKGE, you'll never see. And they will run additional conventions there at the same time, which maybe we can get into, talking about why that's a bit problematic when there's not enough hotel rooms. But the UKG itself is in that convention hall, and then also in the Hilton, which is a 10-minute walk around a lake. And then 10 minutes around the other side of the lake, you can get to the resort land, which is basically all the restaurants and stuff if you want to go and get some food and you don't want to get it from the fast food places around the convention center. Or order from the Hilton.
Having a quick look, the NEC is about twice the size of the XL, give or take.
That's so big.
If that gives anybody any context.
Okay, so you know the XL Center, right? It's like twice the size of that.
Yeah. 190,000 meters squared covered indoor space. Like the area that we're in for the expo, I think is the smaller area. I think we're only 70,000 feet or 72,000 feet this year. So it's been smaller in previous years, and they have 190,000. Maybe not feet, meters. Let's talk in real money.
Well, there's multiple main entrances to the building as well, albeit the one that leads up to the UKG is the sort of the main entrance, but nobody's allowed to drive down there anyway. And you have to drive around this other side of the convention center and through a series of parking lots and gateways. It's all a bit of a sort of complex infrastructure nightmare, really. But, you know, people manage, and it's fine.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the logistics of running an expo of this size are not inconsiderable, right? They're getting it to grow every year, huge achievement, getting everything lined up and all the different arms of the expo. Imagine, you've maybe been to a convention with a few hundred people. Doing that for tens of thousands of people is not just a multiplier of difference, it's an exponential difference as you get to larger and larger attendances. So, yeah, NEC is probably the only place to have it. You couldn't really, even though theoretically you could fit it in the XL, wouldn't be against that. But, the NEC is probably the only real place that you could have it in the UK. And it is the UK Games Expo, so let's stick with that.
And to an extent, we're quite fortunate to have such a large expo on our doorstep, really. Birmingham as a city is a good spot for it because it's quite sort of accessible. It's not too far north, it's not too far south. It's roughly in the middle somewhere. So that's all really good. But it has become much, much bigger, and there are parts of the expo that I really, really like, and parts that I'm not sure about. And it's interesting to see sort of how they've grown and the direction they're taking. You've observed that the hotel prices have only gone up and up and up, and I've observed that realistically it's impossible to get a hotel room unless we book them while we're there.
But sometimes they're generally not even available a year in advance. You've got to have an in somehow to get them. Yes, like getting a hotel room's the hard part, and then the cost of them's the secondary part. So this year I wasn't going to go. I thought the cost was getting too much, and for what I was getting out of the expo, I didn't feel it was worth it. So I'm staying in Coventry, and Coventry's like a 5-minute train ride to the NEC, and I got a hotel really close to the train station, like another 5-minute walk. I was like, well, actually, that's only, be 15 minutes, depending on trains. fine. It's not that different, and the prices come back down to being quite reasonable. But of course, this year, as in previous years, engineering works over the bank holiday weekend, and so now it's a rail replacement service, and having to get a bus for 30-40 minutes, however long it takes, is going to be no fun at all. It really, adding that time is just a pain. You know, like London's only an hour 15. So I could have travelled there and back every night and been not had the cost, you know. Just but then again, the costs between the train ticket prices are also ridiculous. When I first went, it was £16 return, and now it's like 40 quid one way, and it's like insane. Everything's insane.
Well, and we can sort of like, I think this comes back to as well, like what, I mean, well, for a start, yeah, it's a bummer about the train ride. I actually, when I used to stay in Coventry, when I would go, I did it a few times because I was broke. And my buddy lived in Coventry, so I could stay with him for free. And that was very appealing. Having said that, what I found was that the train would stop running around midnight. And it meant that a huge part of the convention, which I really, really like, which is the open gaming, the late night open gaming at the Hilton, I wasn't really able to attend. And so that impacted part of the convention that I like enough where I was like, all right, I'm going to need to sort out a hotel. I'm not going to be, I mean, it's like I'm coming, but then I'm just as everybody's sort of settling down to do this late night gaming, or, you know, I'm in the middle of something we've started. Now I have to run off and go and catch this train. And not only that, but sometimes they would close the walkway to the train station, and I would have to run all the way around the NEC, and it was mad, and I did not like it. And I vowed not to do that again. Now, fortunately, I haven't had to, but I am paying a premium to not do that because of the price of the hotel rooms.
I'm an old man now, so getting space in the Hilton now is tough. By the time midnight rolls around, maybe you're freeing up some space. But the open gaming within the NEC itself shuts around 11, and so my intention is just to game there till 11 and then go get the train. Or the bus.
So exactly. So I think that the thing is, it's a and maybe we're going to get into this more because we're going to talk a bit more in detail about what's going on at the expo actually in just a moment, and specifically things that Barry has picked out that he'd like to address in a new segment called Barry's Grievances. But before we get to that segment, just I suppose on our personal level, because what we've got, I suppose, for this episode, maybe I should have done this before we're 15 minutes in, is talk about what we're going to talk about in this episode, which is to say we're talking about the UKGE, and we're going to talk about the expo up front here. This is going to be what we like about it, what we've observed about it, what we've maybe seen, how it's changed over time, whether we, how we feel about that. But then also we'll talk at the end about the games that we've seen that are going to be at the expo that we're excited to check out. And, if you want to jump straight to that, you can. An important preamble, I suppose, is that the UKG still doesn't seem to be a major focus of new releases for publishers. And we've seen this sort of waver as publishers have occasionally brought a new title to it, but it's not very common. Usually they save them for Gen Con in is it in August or September? I think it's in August. Gen Con in August or Essen in October. But before we get into that, one of the things that really I love about the UKG, and it's a core part of my enjoyment of it, is the fact that it's got a major retail presence like Essen Spiel. And really, it's the only board game convention I can think of that has such a dominant retail presence and also such an amazing amount of open gaming available, which doesn't really exist at Essen at all. And they also have a lot of organized play, which I know you can talk a bit about as well, but we've both participated in the past. I think, Barry, you've participated in Netrunner there, and I used to do the X-Wing championships there as well, national championships. So, you know, there's a lot of like game playing. And I don't know about Gen Con. I think Gen Con is like Essen, much more retail focused. So arguably, this is the board game convention with the sort of the biggest board game convention with a key focus on game playing as well as sales in the world, you know, and that's really interesting. Now, the NEC closes at around 11:30 midnight, and then they have to kick everyone out. So they've got a lot of open gaming in the NEC, and now a lot of people who go tend to filter out at that time anyway, and that's fine. But for those of us hardcore people who remember the Hilton days, we always migrate back to the Hilton, which has becoming, they've always got like 3 rooms at the Hilton, which are open for open gaming basically all night long. And I that's a huge part of the experience for me, but it is becoming increasingly in demand, and there's not a good answer really for that space either, because the Hilton is getting busier and busier every evening, because it's the sort of the social hotspot, and a lot of the people who are over at the NEC will filter out when it shuts. But you know, it's if you're going just as a punter, one of the core challenges here is that if you're not staying at the Hilton, you have to be able to get back to your hotel. Not a lot of the hotels are nice walking distances from the Hilton. In fact, the vast majority are not. They are treks across an industrial landscape, often around car parks. And sort of, you know, once the NEC shuts at midnight, you cannot go through it, which makes everything much more complicated because now you have to go around it. And unfortunately, again, there's not really a good answer to this. Maybe, you know, I think, you know, we're seeing actually more and more people just making their own sort of open gaming arrangements in the various hotels. They'll be like, which hotel are you in? Oh, I'm staying there. Let's organize something over there. So they don't have to make this, you know, 2 a.m. trek back from the Hilton across, you know, all these dark car parks.
But similarly, a lot of hotels don't allow gaming in their open areas for the sake of other patrons.
I've seen them generally be pretty good. In my experience, they've generally been pretty good, but it's real hit and miss about how much space will be available, and typically it's not much.
Yeah, even the Hilton doesn't allow gaming within their main foyer. You have to go into the dedicated rooms in order to play. But yes, I mean, everything you've said there, there's no way of fixing it without building a dedicated expo hotel facility.
That's genius. Let's do that.
That'll be the next step. So let's talk a little about logistics for that. No.
All right, it's now Shark Tank. Here's our pitch.
Yeah. No, I mean, so the expo, you know, these are problems that everybody would have. This year, you know, some good changes to the expo. Digital tickets for events is an update. You don't have to queue for your event tickets now, and they'll be on your phone. You can't lose them. Previously, you'd pick them up with your normal ticket. They'd be printed off. This year, you'll just be picking up your lanyard for your day passes, which is super. And everything Mike said there about this being an expo to play games, that's why I got into it at the start. The organised play for the competitive card games in particular, but lots of things go on. And then last year I had problems with, 2 years ago, I had problems with demos. I want to go and see more games and play more games. And last year wasn't bad. This year, I'm expecting potentially there to be problems again. You know, every time it grows, there's more people going, there's less opportunity to demo. If you have 20-minute demos, 3 an hour, over the course of the 24 hours that you have to demonstrate these things, you're seeing 250, 300 people, you know, a 4-player game, off the 45,000 we're suggesting are going to be there. So it becomes very difficult to get into demo games. There's no real good system to book everything. Asmodee tend to run their own system. You have to run in the morning, see what's available, book a slot, and turn up again later on. And other exhibitors have followed suit. You can run in the morning, try and get a slot at some point during the day. They'll often cut off booking in the afternoon as well to allow people to kind of just come and chance their arm and still have an opportunity. But again, it's not a great system. I have some ideas about that, but I would like the Expo to focus on getting people to play games and for the Expo being about games. But I understand that it's a money-making business. Whatever they have to do to survive and continue putting on the show and stuff, I just worry that it's moving away from an Expo that I would want to go to, not just from the cost, but also from what's available there. Because I think I said last year, everything that I got at the Expo was coming out in a few weeks anyway. It's not like I couldn't have just waited, spent the money I spent on the Expo on even more games, and then played them at home through the year. So there has to be something there that makes it worthwhile for me, and everybody's going to have their own opinions on that one. Mm-hmm. So one of the first things I think's been grumbled about this year is the ability to discover new games. So the Expo has a new games section, and the Board Game Geek now has their not some kind of list. What's it called? Something list. Preview list.
Preview list? Is
Nah, there's a word. Hold on. I'll tell you the word.
Bird.
Yeah, previews. Preview list. Okay, cool. Glad I looked that up. So Board Game Geek have their preview list, but they're not the same. They're not all tied together. The publishers have to kind of keep them up to date, and they're not particularly accurate, right? So if I was to look at some specific examples, Allplay have listed, so Allplay as the publisher went on to the Expo and said that Alibis is a new game to buy. Well, that's not true, because I bought it there last year. Darwin's Choice, a 2019 game, listed as new to buy.
I backed that in 2018 or something. I have my copy of Darwin. I think it's a reprint, but
very possibly, but they need to be filtered out so that the
But I've had that game for 5+ years.
Yeah, the Expo needs to provide additional tags for new version, reprint, whatever. Yes, you could have those games listed as available to buy, although why they wouldn't be, maybe they've been out of print for a while, perhaps. There's a new version of Skipbo listed as new to buy. That game is 50, 60 years old at this point. Sure, I'm glad it's got a refresh and a new coat of paint, but it's not a new game. It's not a new game to buy. You could have bought it any time in the last 60 years. And a big one's been Distilled Cocktails, which is the expansion to Distilled, which is highlighted there. No, it's not coming anymore, right? So I'm sure Paverson added it when they thought it was coming, but it's still there, and they're not going to have any stock. So I would like a system for highlighting genuinely new games that people are going to go to the Expo specifically to buy. It's the first time available, or very recently available games, and something for people to get excited about, and something for people to, perhaps the preview stock. I know a lot of people ship in advanced stock to places like Essen. People to do the same here, where we're limited in numbers. We've only got 200, 500, 1,000 copies to sell, but this isn't going to be on general release until 3 months down the line, when we can get the container over. And I'd like to make it more of I'd like Expo to make it more of a thing, and to give people the tools to find these. So on the Board Game Geek forums, there's been a whole bunch of people who have done things with the new games list, with the maps, to help people find what's new and what they need to, or what they should see at the Expo. And it's really a selling point for the Expo. So I think there's some changes they could make there. I'm happy to filter out people I'll volunteer. If Allplay come to me and say, I want to put Alibis in the new thing, I was like, that's not new. You had that listed last year. Give me something that's actually new, yeah?
So I've got some thoughts on this myself, because I'm largely in agreement with you. We're aligned on this one. I think it is a board game convention, and I mean, sort of historically, there's not been major releases at the UKG. For a while, Board and Dice have brought a release there every year. They've usually had two new releases every year at least, maybe more, but they'll bring one to UKG and the big one to Essen, sometimes two to Essen. They're not even in attendance this year, although I can't speak as to why, I don't know. But I guess the thing is, so they've got a system in place. It's just not working well, right?
Yeah.
And so, what is the issue with it? Now, all I can really do is compare it to the Essen system, because that's the one I know, and that's the big one. What's interesting about that is Essen doesn't have a proprietary system. They use a Board Game Geek list.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it works better, because it has all kinds of other problems, usually around publishers being very excited to have their new game out at Essen, and then it's not ready. This is the case repeatedly and consistently. I think if UKG were to get to the same kind of level, or have the same kind of releases, they would just run into this problem as well, where publishers are just super optimistic they're going to have the game. Now, the thing is, Essen is so big, publishers will swallow a bunch of cost to airship games in, and because they want to get it into people's hands. Now, I am conscious that publishers are willing, and so then there's this problem of scarcity, right? Like, it's like the Fayez Swamp thing,
Yeah.
They didn't realize, they were top of the hotness. The game obviously wasn't ready, because it's still not at retail, despite us being 8 months later. And they must have had a handful of like pre-production copies. But the point is that the Essen list seems much more well curated, in terms of games being new or previously unavailable. And I think also because it's a German language convention, it's much more sensitive to games that are new in this language, So they'll be like, yes, this is new in English, or yes, this is new in German or Spanish or whatever. And that there's a lot of publishers that go to Essen because they're, localization team, and they've got, the latest, some hotness that's previously unavailable in that language, which is all great. I'm a big fan of that. I have no problem with that. I think, publishers are always going to be optimistic about releases. And, actually, Viking Route is the new game from Ares about sailing your Vikings around using magnets. It looks really neat. I actually ended up backing it on crowdfunding because I thought it looked cute and interesting, and I thought maybe my wife.
I played it last year.
Yeah, and so and they had a demo copy last year. Now they are in the process of fulfilling the campaign. It won't be fulfilled till mid to late June by their estimates. They've air freighted some copies in to bring to Expo. They earmarked a few for people who backed it to pick up. Those went gone. And then the rest they're going to sell to cover the cost of air shipping. Now, this is not a Kickstarter gripe or anything like that. I don't mind. I missed out the window to pick up my copy at Expo. I'm going to get it in the post later at the month. I couldn't care less. I'm more than happy for them to recoup their cost and to have some copies of something new and exciting for people at Expo. My point is that they're willing to do it for the UKG. Publishers are demonstrating that they are willing to get some new thing in and even airship it in ahead of its regular shipping distribution to be at UKG. So I think UKG is doing themselves a massive disservice not focusing more on this and trying to push this more, and they've got a proprietary system. Essen doesn't have a proprietary system. Now, I don't know if that's shooting themselves in the foot, because maybe they'd just be better off with a geek list. Maybe there's something about the list being on BGG, being so open to the community, that makes it more carefully curated, that sort of self-regulates, whereas because this is just on their website and publishers just uploading whatever they want, it just becomes a bit of a mess. But the list has never really been one you can take very seriously. And I find it's often hard to get a good sense of what's going to be there and what's exciting to look at without insider knowledge, without, really doing a deep dive into stuff. And that should be a core selling point of the expo, is like, come and see all this cool new stuff, and so I think that they should absolutely be pushing that more front and center. And I think that the publishers would get behind it if they did,
I agree. Like, launching at Expo, they're one new tag. So not just new to buy, but launching at Expo, and those are the ones that you put front and center at the top of that page. What's new? Launching at Expo, and then you've got your hotness list there. The list on Board Game Geek for the Expo is very similar to the SM one, but it's still very hard to figure out what's new to buy from that list. So I think keeping it proprietary, keeping it on the website, even if it's that single tag, launching at Expo, and then hyping up the games that do so to encourage more publishers next year. It's the complete opposite side of SN and Gen Con and stuff, May. I mean, not the complete opposite side, but near enough. There's got to be a schedule there. The hype machine never stops for launching products. I feel like the UK Games Expo can be doing more with it.
Even if publishers are working towards a Gen Con or SN release schedule, which a lot of them do, there must still be games that are coming out just happenstance around the time of UKG. And so I think it's a case of UKG just also making an effort to make, and you're right, like a tag would be helpful, but part of the problem is a lot of the tags that are up there, new to buy, new to demo, are inaccurate. So just some better curation, maybe a little bit better enforcement, and a sort of a bit more of a opportunity to sort of hype that stuff up, because it's not front and center on the website either. Like, you go to the website, you can find all kinds of interesting information about what's on, what events are going to be on, all this kind of stuff. And then there's, just a page that says, launching at Expo, these games, scrolling boxes, I think that would be a win for everybody.
Yeah. But I may go as far as, after this year, I'll contact Games Expo. I'll offer to come up with some sort of plan or strategy for this, whether or not to take me on. I mean, they're obviously, I'm not asking to be staff, right? So they have staff, but a lot of it relies on volunteers. I am happy to volunteer if this is something that they can give me some degree of ownership of, right? They'll still have final say on whatever, but I'm happy to organise it, give it to you in a format that you can use. Launching at Expo, first look, a tag where it's the first time anybody's going to be able to get hands on with this. Ahead of Gen Con, ahead of SN, maybe they don't want to steal the thunder for later in the year, but there will be stuff.
There'll be stuff. There's gonna be people who, there's gonna be games. There just is, I mean, they're already there. Viking Root is already there, doing exactly this thing. But if you didn't notice because the information's not available enough, then that's it. Yeah.
So it's hard. So podcasts like this, there's been a lot of people just asking, what should I be looking for this year, which I hadn't seen in previous years. It's it seems like a quieter release schedule, but it could just be that people don't know. So, and I think we discussed in last year's look ahead, there's no real point in talking about things that aren't going to come out for another 18 months either. So it's really important to find out what's there for you right now. So we'll see. Anyway, food for thought. I'm sure everybody at Games Expo is going to be tuning in to write up their next year's financial strategy.
Did you hear those guys on the Ready Stay podcast? Wow, they've got some great ideas that we definitely have never thought of before.
Yeah, I know, man. One of those guys got glasses. He looks like he knows what he's on about. So, talking about like new games and playing games and having the opportunity to play games, and what you won't have enough space to play demos. What I find, or what I've found in previous years at least, is that the tournament area just empties out once. Like, it's never full. There's always table after table after table, which is not the open play area, but reserved for tournaments. And then those tournaments are finished by 6 o'clock. And because I've found it very difficult to get in at some of those demos, I would like to see those tables offered up to publishers to continue demoing games later into the night. So both taking some of the squeeze off the open play area, and also giving publishers, more of an opportunity to sell their game. Now, I understand that people running those stalls are generally volunteers, and you've got to then, pay for those volunteers to continue operating late into the night, say. But only some people will do it. Like I say, you can probably show about 300 people your game in a 20-minute demo with 4 people at a table throughout the course of the expo. Opening that up or lengthening that opportunity to make those sales or pre-sales, particularly pre-Kickstarter stuff, or pre-crowdfunding stuff. I don't know. Just I don't want to have to pick one thing I want to demo that day, run to it as soon as the doors are open, and hope that there's still a slot available to me. Give me more opportunity. And again, I'm going to pay close attention this year to those tables, right? The tournament tables. But the last 2-3 years running, they have been just open space that is unused come 6 o'clock in the evening,
Well, I think it's interesting because a big chunk of the organized play that they used to have, which is to say the FFG stuff, is all obviously
long time ago.
Yeah, well, it doesn't require the space it once did. Yeah. So they've got more available space. And I agree with you to an extent. It's very clear that demo space at the booths is incredibly high demand. And I know that people have been complaining for years that they couldn't get a demo on the thing that they came all the way to Expo to try. And that's a real shame, because I think that's another huge selling point of Expo, getting there, trying the games before you buy them, just getting a teach so you can see what it's about. And it doesn't make sense to have empty space that's not in use. And so I think, offering sort of like, you can have the stalls and the shops and whatever with the demo tables on them as well. But, running through those main halls is also really difficult. They're packed. Mm-hmm. Generally, the space is much easier to negotiate in the open play areas, or easier to navigate. And so having some dedicated space in there for publishers to have sort of breakout demo areas, or even like their own mini libraries or something. Now, obviously, that puts a lot of stress on publishers if they have to have two distinct areas. They have to have more people, more volunteers to run those things, because, that's how they're doing it. They're usually trading games for people to run these things. But it is the lack of demo space, people booking everything up in advance, is a problem, and it's a huge selling point. And so if they can find a way to leverage that to give people more space, I think that'd be great.
I might even suggest that, depending on how many copies of a game a publisher has with them, encourage them to run a tournament, like schedule it, let people buy the ticket. It's worth knowing you have to pay for the tournament space, your seats, right? Even if you're not, as the organizer, you're, even without taking any money, there's a £6 fee just for somebody to sit down in that space in the evening. The
tournament is the first table of players to finish the game when they sat down to a blind play while getting the fewest rules wrong.
Yeah.
You have to play the fastest, but also 100% correctly, or you're disqualified.
Anyway, I'm sure it's logistically difficult, but something along those lines, I don't know what's feasible, or possible, but that would be a suggestion for mine. Oh, I've got loads of notes. So the awards for the Games Expo have come out now. I don't know if you've seen who's won what. And actually, the listings in the end don't look that bad. But the things that make it into those shortlists are consistently, year on year, baffling. Right? I do not understand why those games. And I do to a degree, right? There's a judge panel, and I believe that publishers submit their game to be considered, and not everybody does it. I feel like, maybe if you had like a hotness list or something, you could go out and you could do a bit more outreach. You could encourage people to submit stuff. You could look at...
yeah, one of the key criteria to submitting is that you have to have a stall at the expo.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
Right, so... if we look at it, so Distilled Cocktails, which I mentioned earlier, is not going to be at the expo, not available for sale. Paverson are there, has won Best Expansion.
Okay.
Right? And that happens every year. There's things that aren't out that are winning awards. And maybe the judges have played it. Maybe they've played in Tabletop Simulator. Maybe they have an advanced... In fact, they have to have an advanced copy.
Yeah, you have one of the other criteria is that you have to send copies of the games to the judges. And if it's an expansion, you have to send the base game as well. If it's Legacy, then you have to send enough copies for everyone to play it, etc.
Yeah.
So there are quite a few criteria. So I think it's completely reasonable to believe that Paverson had some preview copies of Cocktails that they sent along to the judges to play. The judges played them, gave them an award, and then Paverson turned around and said, "Uh-oh, our shipping's not lined up, and we won't actually have it there," which, is a shame. Now, the question is, how do you handle that if you've already decided that's the winner? Do you have a runner-up and you swap it out? Or do you just say, well, this was the best expansion. Unfortunately, it's not.
And the thing is, looking back upon that is going to make sense to people, right?
It's not available.
Probably make sense to people. But
I realized I just did a silent... Sorry, Barry. I realized I just did a silent hand gesture on a podcast.
People just kind of,
And I think, just on that subject very quickly before we move on, is just that it would be helpful to have some context, because these are the UK Games Expo Awards, right? And so if the game isn't at the expo, then surely it shouldn't qualify, right?
Yeah.
And if it's a logistics issue, then I think, you need to think long and hard about your policies on that. I would be inclined to say, well, then we give it to the runner-up. We swap you around. We say, honorable exclusion. We wanted to award this, but it's not actually here. But it's like, I think it's called the UK Games Expo Awards, right?
Correct. Yeah. And what I find with the Expo Awards is that they don't carry any weight. Like within the industry, you never see something, winner of UK Games Expo, whatever, because there's such an eclectic mix of things that goes into the categories and into the shortlisting, and it could be in part because the restrictions on being able to submit. But Vantage is one best story game. Right. Stonemare's not at the expo, right? So do Asmodee's distributor count? But they distribute everything. So
Asmodee, yeah. And Stonemaier also has UK distribution. Like they have a UK warehouse. So even though they distribute through Asmodee as well, you can get it directly from them here.
Yeah, their Champions program and whatnot. So again, it seems like, well, I mentioned as well, like two of the best variants, that's one of the categories, are just standalone expansions, which... fine, you might want to count them as it. I've made a little note. So I would have loved to have seen the Taiwanese version of Mindleaf, which has been reprinted as Garden. And that was the first expo I went to, and Andy Hopwood was there, and they're all laser printed in his shed. The copy that I had that came in a little bag, and it was before they had the next level, which was also sort of laser printed wood, but kind of the next thing. This was very rough and ready. And then this new version from, I think it's just Taiwan Board Games is the publisher. They've now put a theme on it that's bugs, like in your garden. It's called Garden now. And it just would have been, when we're looking back at 20 years, sure, I don't expect people there to have encyclopedic knowledge, but that was a variant. That's a good variant. Or the Can't Stop. There's a new, either Mount Fuji one or a Korean one, and it's a new version, new variant, and it comes in, a nice new box for what Can't Stop is. Again, if they've not submitted it, I get it, right? You can't give them the award if the criteria is you have to submit it. But I just feel like, you're enforcing some policies but not the other. Would you just be better off with a panel of judges taking into account everything that's going to be there, things that are new? Again, if there was an easy way to filter out, here's the new games, here's what you should be looking for, I would pivot them to be, here's the best of the show that you can buy here today that's new.
Well, I wonder if it wouldn't be better to just do the People's Choice. Now, they do have a People's Choice Awards, don't they?
Yeah, people vote on the day there.
Yeah, and you see, I feel like Essenspiel can do the Spiel des Jahres because they're the biggest board game convention, right? And they have all the new releases,
Yeah.
UKG needs some, or wants to have some version of that, but they've got the sort of this award show, which is best of the UKG, but then, seems to include a bunch of stuff that's not there or hasn't come out there or isn't available to buy, despite the fact that that's not in the policy. And so it's obviously not very well regulated or well enforced. So if you just want to do a board games awards, just do a board games awards. But I think the People's Choice Award is actually much more interesting, because that's basically saying to people, hey, you came, you saw a bunch of games, what stood out? And I feel like when you're polling 42,000 people, you're going to get, by aggregate, some really interesting stuff, So list it, if your list was better curated, then you could say and if you want the judges to make a short list, fine, that would actually be great for pundits who are showing up and they see, oh, there's an award for 2-player games. Here's a list of exciting 2-player games that are here. They're telling me I should try. And if I do try them, I get to vote on which one I think is the best. That's great, I think that I feel, again, like that's sort of multi-wins. And then you can say, Here are the UKG People's Choice Awards that we've organized. This is what people thought was great. And, it incentivizes publishers to get more demos going so people can actually play those games as well. I feel, again, like that's a big win. Instead of these awards, which I'm not really sure what's going on with them. If they want to compete with Spiel des Jahres, that's going to be tough,
Yeah. So, again, everything works in layers and everything comes together in different ways. And there are things. I'm not saying any of this is easy, and I'm not saying that any of this isn't stuff perhaps they thought of, or...
It's very easy for us to sit here and have complete blue sky thinking.
In our ivory tower, looking down.
Where we don't have to organize anything. Look, now it's a small miracle that it comes together every year and they pull it off. And so, the fact that they don't have all of these things, like I said earlier, I'm sure they've thought of all of this stuff. It's just how do they implement it in a way that's manageable for them,
They could, in part, not give themselves some extra work. So, speaking of their policies, buried within the UK Games Expo's charity policy is their reasoning behind supporting the 3 charities that they have each year. And it all makes total sense. You don't want charity fatigue. You don't want people going round with a bucket every alleyway and every aisle and things along those lines. Last year they gave 31,000 to charity, really good, and they have this. But part of it, they don't give stands to charities because of this policy. But their policy is, we are a gaming convention. We only book stands for companies that sell games and products specifically related to the gaming industry. That is nonsense. And that is one that I think they should stand more firmly behind. So last year, kind of year before as well, I said, stop trying to make the expo everything to everybody. Right, we'll come back to some of that. They've got stands for non-game related stuff, right? People selling junk, 3D printed tat, things with STLs they've downloaded online, probably not even got the commercial license for, and then are selling there. All the Temu and AliExpress cosplay prop resellers. They've got. I didn't see too many AI artists, right? But they are out there. There's people selling blind boxes, right? Just people sell junk, right? All of these things should not be at Expo. If your policy is that you're a gaming convention and you only give stands to people selling gaming stuff, this is all fan stuff. This is all hobby stuff. This is all, but it's outside the remit of board games. And I'm going to controversially say that despite having bought things from a lot of these stands in the past, I don't really want people selling candles or bags of tea. I've still got bags of tea downstairs. Or people whose art isn't to do with board games. And I understand that the expo is becoming bigger, right? And I just don't think it's becoming better because of it. And so, let me be clear, I understand it's a business. If those people are willing to pay to be at the expo, they buy the square footage, they think they can turn a profit and people are buying stuff there, cool. But don't have it as a policy that you're not going to stand by. So this is a bigger problem within cons overall, particularly comic cons and artist cons. You might not be as into those scenes as I might be. And people just selling AI slop and people selling all the same things, the same crochet patterns as well, right? Crocheting, sure, takes time, but people doing the same things. They're all getting the same patterns and they're not offering anything unique to the con, unique to you. You go 2-3 stalls down, it's the same stuff. And you've got that, you're going to get that problem. And I'll see how bad it is this year. But last year a huge stand was just somebody selling weapons, like cosplay weapons, and they seem busy-ish. But we're not a cosplay con strictly, right? And certainly not a random cosplay con. Now, you could argue that that's there because of the Viking Village. You could argue that, within the fandom of board games, there's a huge crossover with comics and anime and all these kind of things. But I'm there for games. If I want a Comic-Con, I'll go to a Comic-Con.
Well, I'd be more inclined to approve weapons and LARPing as being board game adjacent. Although, live action is kind of the opposite of board game to an extent. But I'd be more inclined to approve that than anime or comic books.
Yeah. Yeah, fine.
Because it's still gameplay,
right?
right? It's like LARPing is still play.
It's just not,
it's just not
I didn't consider that, but the stuff people aren't LARPing with that, right? Yes, right. There is a small contingent of historical medieval weapons. There are lightsabers. There are
I can LARP Star Wars.
Cyberpunk 2077 guns, like those kind of things. They're not really
well. And I am interested. I mean, I do sort of fundamentally agree that, and I think in the past what they've tried to do is separate these things out so there's some sense of continuity. I thought last year it was actually the layout of the halls, which they'd sort of changed last minute because they didn't have Hall 1 and then suddenly did have Hall 1. Mm-hmm. I actually thought it was better than it had been previously, but I also feel like they had attempted to sort of group stalls as best they could, and then it had kind of become a mess at some point. The groupings didn't really manifest in a sensible way, Like you wanted to have all the card game sort of companies in one area and all the board game retail shops, that show up all in one area and stuff like that. Hall 1 is always supposed to be the big publishers, and then Hall 2 was always the indie publishers. Stuff like that, but it kind of got messy. And it was a bit hard, for me, it's not so bad because I see names of things, publishers, etc., shops, publishers, whatever, and I'm like, yes, I know what that is. But if I were just wandering, I think it would have felt completely baffling. And so, if they want to keep going down this road with sort of board game adjacent stuff, and there are a lot of people who do seem to suddenly have a board game version of their product who show up at the expo, where maybe previously it didn't have a board game version of it. Um, I think that they could have a more dedicated area for that stuff, so you can just skip it if it's not your vibe.
Yeah, but I think they deliberately don't. So for retailers, you're paying a premium for the thoroughfare.
Yeah.
The places where people have to walk between halls and stuff like that. And so you've got generally retailers as soon as you go into each hall up the sides, and then they're giving the other sellers, if you're going up to a game in the corner, they're putting other sellers in your way for other stuff. Like I'd be fine with segments, like an area for cozy tea and candles or whatever. But then it perhaps becomes, they don't have the footfall, right? People aren't just going there. People will deliberately avoid it. And so I think it's the opposite of what they're trying to achieve. I know Essen obviously does quite well with their segmentation of the halls.
Essen's generally been very good, yeah.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be against that here. And as I say, I have bought tea in particular, candles. I'm not against the dice sellers, even though it's all Temu resale for huge markups.
So
not all of it,
there are some dice sellers and things like that at Essen, but I would also argue they seem to have a stricter version of this policy. It does seem to be less a sort of board, like there's some book shops for some reason at Essen, but not typically. They've got like anyway, the point is there just seems to be, despite the fact that it is bigger with more space, less proportionally of that sort of thing.
Yeah. Gotcha. And speaking of becoming like Comic-Con, the expo in the last week or two has just been pushing their celebrity appearances, right? So Chris Barry, Colin Baker, Ian McElhinney are all touted as being in attendance, and they've got a celebrity corner. I think it's like hall 2, 3, hall 3.
Is this the first year they've done this? I feel like I didn't see it before.
It's the first year. I mean, Ian Livingston's there most years. He does book signing on his stall. You can buy books at his stall, but they're game books. And I guess
I didn't question that because it's Ian Livingston.
Yes. Right. And other Steve Jackson's there. So American Steve Jackson's there this year. But anyway, there's a celebrity corner, and I believe Chris Barry's been before, and he maybe hosted a quiz, or at least maybe Colin Baker did a sci-fi quiz. But I don't necessarily get it, right? It's just moving further away from games. And as I said, for me, the expo's about the games. That's why I go, right? And I enjoy the entertainment around it. I enjoy the shows that are on because they're their own thing. They're in different places. And you can go and do that either for your evening's entertainment after having been to the expo, or for a particular talk on a topic that's usually quite related. The Viking Village I poo-pooed last year, but they don't take up any space, right? They're outside. Yeah, like they're just making them sleep in the field outside, so that's fine, I guess, right? So when you're not using the limited space, which is the core part of the experience, the limited space that they have should be for games. When you're giving it to celebrities, I'm not suggesting those people aren't celebrities. People know who they are. It rubs me the wrong way. I'm already saying that it's probably going to be tighter this year, I would think, for space. There won't be as much opportunity for seeing the things. I don't know. I imagine these people have been paid, or some of these people have been paid to be there, rather than the people that have booked a space to sign autographs and do paid autographs or whatever. I just don't want it to be Comic-Con. I've been to Comic-Cons. In previous years, Comic-Cons run alongside the Expo in the NEC at the same time. And there was a good deal there where if you had tickets for one, you could go into the other. That's fine. Again, you're going into a place that isn't eating up gaming space. What is the Expo? And is it for games, or is it for... Who's it for, you know? I like Chris Barry. I like Red Dwarf. I like the British Empire. I like... struggling to think of other things he's been in.
I like those things that I've seen.
I like those two things I can think of. But I'm not... Unless he wants to play Joe Forcardia against me, I'm not bothered that he's there.
I think yeah. I mean, I'll play devil's advocate a bit, but I do agree with you on this as well. I mean, to an extent, I guess it's like, how much effort was it? You know, if it's not a lot of space and it's low effort to organize, and some people are going to get excitement out of it, fine, it's not a problem, right? It's but I guess it's like, how much effort was it to organize, and could we find some of that effort and maybe put it into curating the list and, you know, focusing on promoting the publishers who are regularly in attendance. It'd be nice to have a focus on some UK-based publishers, you know, given that it's the UK Games Expo, stuff like that, you know. So I think think that, yeah, you're right. It does seem to be expanding in a way that is that's doing more generic convention stuff rather than more niche board game stuff. And maybe this just reveals our incredible niche interest in the convention. But if I was into convention stuff, that I've already got lots of options for that, you know. Chris Barry will be at many other conventions, possibly, but
ones that are dedicated to those fan bases, right?
Yeah. Now I do have to keep my mouth somewhat shut on these things, because generally speaking, when I go to board game conventions, I have a wildly different experience to everyone else anyway. So, you know, I don't want to run too much commentary on this, because I think your experience is a lot more in line with what everyone will experience generally there than mine will be.
Although, again, I'm into it in a way that people that just show up aren't.
Yeah.
Right. And I imagine at least half the people there are people that just show up. So, if not more. So, again, like, who's it for? And as I've been kind of, you know, we've been talking around the whole thing, the open gaming area. I have two problems with open gaming. One, there's not enough of it. And I appreciate that it's giving up a lot of space, a lot of unpaid space for open gaming, right? But when 6 o'clock rolls round, those halls are full. And similarly, we've spoken about the Hilton, and, you know, when that empties, even at 6 o'clock in the Hilton, those rooms are full. And what I've also found in the early attendances of Expo is I would sit down with strangers and play. And particularly in the Hilton, you know, I'd have my little flag, or I'd go and see somebody's playing a game, and I would go and approach them. And I've not done that in the last 3-4 years. Now, part of it, I'm going with other people. But the big part of it is I don't feel like it's obvious who needs people to play with them, and that's so big that somebody with a flag up 17 tables down and 14 tables across, I can't see that, right? So there's two things I would quite like, and that would be, and I think I'm not the only one, I've seen people on Board Game Geek, I've seen people on Facebook saying, oh, I'm thinking about going on my own, how does the open gaming work? Can I join other tables? And the answer is still yes, but it's a lot harder. I would like to see some open gaming coordinators. So a gathering point where people can say, I'm going to play this, and in 20 minutes we're just going to go get set up. Can you find me some players? And then people are directed, oh, we've got a game of Seven Wonders starting, we've got a game of XYZ starting. And at the same time, you know, that person can be entertaining. Again, it's a big ask, it's a volunteer role, somebody would have to do it. But, you know, you're playing a game of Ito that people can drop in and out of, herd mentality or something. You know, you're just gathering people, you're sending them to the right place. Because I also feel that board gamers are typically, or often, shy as well. They don't want to go and approach people and disturb people. It's not that they're not sociable or whatever, it's that they feel oh, I don't know, I don't know the game. I don't want to make you teach me it. Those kind of things. If you had a central place where people can come and say, look, I'm actively looking for players. I'm happy to teach. Can you find me somebody that wants to play Galactic Cruise for the next 3 hours? And somebody can rock up. It's like, oh, look, I'm here till the end of the night. I'm looking for something to do. It's like, how do you feel about Galactic Cruise? Send them over to the area. And I appreciate that it's, I don't know, like, it's at a scale where I don't often feel like I can just go and jump onto somebody's table, because I often don't even see them. So having somewhere where that's encouraged, and again, more games, more gaming, more games. That's going to be my
I agree, and I think I go to AirCon in Harrogate every year. I really love that convention. It's mostly open gaming, and they've got a system which is very basic, and it works for them because the convention is small, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not suggesting the UKG do something like this, but they've got these big light up lightsabers, and you put it on your gaming table and you turn it on, and the light means we're looking for people. And then people walk over, see what you're doing. And we did that this year because I went with Mark, and we just went the two of us, and we ended up picking up a lot of people to play games with. I think we picked up randoms for almost everything we did. And that was great. It worked really well. And it was really nice, actually, to just sit and play some games with some people, and so it would be nice for the UKG to find a solution to enable this, because I think you're right. It's too busy. It's too big. It's too chaotic for people to self organize. There is a lot of people, and the thing is, I was part of a big group last year as well. I now know so many people at the UKG because almost everybody I know who's into board games from across the whole country ends up there as well. So I know people in the industry, I know people from around the country, I know, some people who come internationally, and so I know lots of people. And last year I ended up in a big group of people where we're playing games, and then we all kind of ended up peeling off into different groups to play different things because we couldn't agree on anything to play, and there were definitely a couple of tables there that could have picked up some lost lambs looking for a game, and we just didn't have any way to do that, other than standing up and shouting, does anyone want to play this game? And then you're interrupting an entire room full of people. So it does sometimes happen. But a better system, or some kind of official system, even if it's just the light up lightsabers. And I'm not suggesting that would be a great idea because I think it's too big for that. But something like that, would be good. At the very least. I mean, the system you suggested sounds great, but again, it requires dedicated people doing that and organizing that. And I think there's going to be an issue where, somebody's going to come across and say, we're going to play Galactic Cruise. We need 2 more players. Can you find us 2 more players? And then half an hour later, they're like, we'll just play with 2 of us because nobody showed up. And then 45 minutes later, someone shows up and goes, I'm ready for Galactic Cruise. And so it's like, you've got to have a sort of quite a reactive dynamic system
having everybody that's looking for a game in one place is your best bet,
Yeah, but what happens when so what you're saying is the Galactic Cruise people have to wait and play herd mentality until 2 more people show up? Is that what you're saying?
Either potentially, or they decide that, well, actually, we're just going to start with the 2 of us.
And then they leave, and then it's not available anymore.
Yeah, or, you just get trucked off. But there's probably 2 people that want to play Galactic Cruise, but they've no way of getting in touch with you.
Yeah, well, I mean,
having somewhere they can get in touch with you is my point.
Yeah.
It's like Board Game Arena. You go and hang out, and you start a game, and you wait for somebody to join. And you can see.
Well, and in the age of AI apps, there must be a way to make a quick app to organize this. I've seen smaller conventions with apps and things to do this sort of stuff, so it must be achievable.
Entirely possible. And then, just as a personal plea, space fills up. Please do not be using, or as best you can, with all your massive haul, don't be taking up space that you don't need, that would allow another table of 4 to sit down. If you're taking up an 8 for the 4 of you, please consider putting your stuff somewhere else. All right, well, quick plug to kind of end my chat about the expo here. So this year I'm running the Forest Shuffle tournament, Friday, 5 o'clock. Get on, buy the tickets. Probably 4 rounds. Super simple. Should have promos. I've got dry erase score pads. I've got games. I've got trophies. There's a dozen tickets left. If they sell, I'm sure I can put up some more. It should be fun. But getting this set up, so I've talked to the social media team at Lookout, Asmodee, Hanno from Lookout, and then the big part was chasing the expo to get to approve the tournament. Right, it took me like over a week to get the tournament up and live, and it only went live this week or last week, end of last week. And that's with 3 weeks to go to the expo. I'm like, well, I need to tell people about it and get the tickets into people's hands. Can we please get this approved? And just what I've said before, like that tournament space sits empty every night. I'll look again this year, but from my recollection, there are huge swathes of that tournament area sitting empty at night. And there's no system. The system for getting people to your tournament is tricky. I'm hoping this year they're going to put on your ticket, digital ticket, the location of where you're at. Because in previous years, people have just had to wander around there until they see somebody that looks like they're playing your game and join them. I've had people late to tournaments almost every year, or the last couple of years at least. And there just needs to be a better system for doing so. There's no mapping on there. I will update. The website doesn't update immediately, right? So I think the UK Expo website, I can update the tournament information. I don't think it gets pushed until like once per day. I think it goes into like a dev live type situation. And so when I find out where the tournament's actually being held, I don't know if me updating that on the tournament is going to get to people. So I just like to see a better system for running tournaments. I'd like more people to be encouraged to run tournaments, and particularly in the evenings, and also go buy a ticket for a shuffle.
Yeah, make it easier so we can bring back. We want to bring back the Hey That's My Fish tournament.
Let's do it. You can do it.
It's possible.
Anyway, those are some. Again, I'll just finish. I know running the expo's very hard. I know that these suggestions are fine in theory, or potentially fine in theory. I know that the implementation of them is the hard part. The execution of anything is the difficult part. I will volunteer. I'll see if I get any feedback for next year. But also be good to know if anybody listening also has some ideas. Like what are their thoughts? What are their views on how the expo's been in years past and what they'd want to see at a convention of this size. My worry is that things like AirCon and HandyCon and all these other cons are going to kind of... We're going to be pushed into them. Not that they're bad things to go to, but the games playing part of a UK Games Expo is going to suffer. I feel like it has been suffering, and I would like to see some redressing that balance to appease the old grognards like myself.
Well, we wouldn't talk about it at some length if we didn't care about the convention. And we've been, every year for a great number of years now. And, we both have incredibly fond memories of the convention and things at the convention. And I think it would be a shame to see it lean all the way into the retail side of it, especially because I don't think it will ever really measure up to Gen Con or Essen, simply because Essen exists, and
yeah.
I also think that I was about to say the hotel space is an issue, but to be fair, space is a huge issue at Essen, and people find a way to make it work. So I don't know, but just on that, it is a shame about the hotels getting prohibitively expensive if that's stopping people, but it is a really good convention, and I do think that, preserving the open gaming part of it is part of what really makes it very unique and special. So I really hope that, they find a way to support that and continue it.
There must be some way of doing deals with the other hotels as well. Like get open gaming in the surrounding hotels. You know that a lot of people are going to be there. Again, it's time, it's effort, it's
the
games. That's why people are here.
Oh my God. I really liked the episode where they spent 80 minutes talking about the convention and forgot to talk about the games.
And that's all we've got time for today. So.
Come back in 2 weeks after the expo for what you should look out for on the expo. So now we're going to talk about the games that we've seen that are coming to expo that we're actually excited about. We're taking a look at the list. We've seen what's on the list. Now, this is probably should really be heavily caveated by the fact that Barry and I are quite deep into the hobby. So there'll probably be a lot of stuff at expo, stuff that's actually relatively new to a lot of people that we will have seen and played or tried already to some degree. So I don't know about your list. My list is certainly stuff that I have otherwise not been exposed to that I know that's going to be at UKGE.
No, this is not purely... Some of this is things that are available to buy that I've kind of known about before, but now able to get in my hands. Some of it is things that is still... things that have yet to pass. You know, I feel like Galadriel here. Things that may or may not be. So I've got a reasonable mix of things, actually, but I wanted to kind of focus on things that I would either be able to pick up, or other people should pick up, or things that are new to me, things that I wanted to test before forming an opinion on. Again, assuming I can get to the demo tables.
Same, yeah.
And some of this might sound very familiar to people who watched last year's podcast on the matter, because one of the things I'm hoping to pick up this year is the game Ace of Spades from the Veer. And the expansion, I believe, is also available to buy there as well. So this was on last year's list, and then not long after that, it was pulled from retail because there was some... the art was quite caricaturish and offensive. They immediately withdrew all the games from sale, went back, corrected the art, and I've reissued the game as it stands now. Hopefully, devoid of the art that was problematic. They did issue a heartfelt apology and whatever else, and yes, I'm sure it was incidental. I don't know how it got through in the first place, but we're not necessarily... They did what they could to make it right, and I'll hopefully learn from the experience.
Well, my question was going to be actually, do you know what they did? Did they redo the art, or did they take out the sort of the problematic thematic elements?
They redid the art. So, well, actually, I don't know. Yes, because certainly the problematic elements were around like the slaver character and the
yeah, there were characters from the Wild West who are sensitive historical topics who were portrayed in a way that was quite lighthearted and cartoony, and it's just not really appropriate.
Yeah. So I'm not 100% sure if they changed... They definitely changed the art, of course, and I think probably changed the name of those cards and what those cards represent within the game. But I've not seen the new stuff, to be honest, but I'll find out. So yes, this was something I was looking forward to last year.
Well, you'll find out at Expo. You can go and have a look at the demo table, see what's there,
Oh yeah, imagine it's worse.
That would be bad. So I was hoping they fixed it and you actually got a game of Ace of Spades and the expansion?
Yeah, there's a small set of cards. Adds in some zombies or something. Just a bit of variety as far as I'm aware. It's only a few extra cards, maybe to the enemy deck. Don't think it does much for the rules. And then there's a few expansions actually coming out that might just touch upon briefly. Tir na Nog, the Land of the Fairies, has an expansion that's fulfilled now, I think, mostly from the Kickstarter. I know we've spoken about Tir na Nog, maybe not on the podcast. You were less keen on it. I've played a fair few games now on Board Game Arena. I like the idea. I like the concept. I like the gameplay. But this expansion's a bunch of mini modules that change things up, and so I think the game's not been good enough that I've gone out and bought it. Also because it's been very hard to get, right? So I think this will be your first chance to pick up the expansion, but also to get the base game, which has been between printings and between sort of
we had to rush to get it at Eschenspiel when we picked it up.
Yeah, so
which I think was it 2 years ago? Eschenspiel 24?
Possibly, yeah. And then there's the Kickstarter reprint and the expansion, and I think that's only just fulfilled. So I've not had a look at what the modules bring. I want to check that out, and I want to see what's what. And then last sort of expansion, I want to just highlight that should be available. Last year they said the same thing, and the base game wasn't available, but let's assume that it's going to be there this year. And that is the expansion for Forest Shuffle Dartmoor Exmoor. And you'll get a chance to play that at a tournament at the expo if it's there. And if not, then we'll be playing without it. We've had our differences on Forest Shuffle, shall we say. Dartmoor is I've gone back and played Forest Shuffle. I just wouldn't. Dartmoor's like so much better. The expansions for the original Forest Shuffle fixed a lot of the problems that were in the base game in terms of how you're scoring and the things that didn't have the support and things along those lines. Every expansion that came out tried to fix something. Alpine was a little different. It's sort of a way of introducing a new colour and new symbols. And it kind of just works as a standalone type thing. But then Dartmoor came out and it is a standalone game and it's just so much better. I've played almost 100 games of Dartmoor alone now. And then just this week, the expansion came on Board Game Arena, released. And unfortunately, it's bad. Exmoor is adding wrongs where the original game's expansions tried to right them. The play from clearing effect, so it's a new ability. Let's say you're looking for a bug, you play a moor, you flip over up to 7 cards until you find 3 bugs, and then you can play them into your tableau. And everything's just too. But what you're going to do is it costs you 2 to play that moor. So you're going to pitch the 2 bugs that you want to find, and then you're going to play those, and it's too good, it's too fast. The play from clearing effect is too powerful when it works. The draw that comes from that, like being able to flip over 3 cards to get rid of the cards in the clearing. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. Something, it just doesn't work in practice. I don't want to get into it too much. I will still be picking up because the new caves, which give you sort of individual player powers, are much cooler. Like way cooler.
Right.
But the new cards, a lot of them I don't like. And I thought maybe I've just not played it enough. I've played it 20 times. No, I'd much rather just play base Dartmoor. But sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. It doesn't break the game necessarily. I've not tried it at 4 players, so maybe that's where something happens. But at 2 players now, it's not the same, and it's not as enjoyable.
Can you use the new caves without the new cards?
Yes. They just get, so it might be a cave power if you have 3 or fewer cards in your hand at the start of your turn, draw a card. Or when you fill a moor, draw a card. So they give you sort of individual player powers now, and just something else to focus on. But the draw engines are absolutely insane. Like, I could be playing a card and drawing 7. And it's like, well, where's the challenge? Sure, it takes a little bit of time to build up. But the challenge of when to play cards, when to draw cards, what to play, how much engine to go for before going for your scoring cards, just it's out the window, and it's not the same game. So one more expansion to have a look at, and that is War of the Ring, the card game. I forget what it's called. What's it called?
Hope and Despair?
Hope and Despair. Have you looked at this one? So we spoke about War of the Ring card game. I think we both like it a fair bit.
Yep.
So this is a preview.
I mean, we couldn't be coming at it from more different angles. Where you're like, the solo adventure is pretty good, and I'm like, I like the 6-player mode. Yeah. But I think it's very promising that it's got something there for everyone. You can buy the solo co-op expansion individually to the 6-player expansion, which is functionally sort of what they are. Mm-hmm. this new expansion, I don't know. It looks like it's sort of more cards and new mechanisms. I don't know if it needs that, but I like the game enough. It's proven solid enough that I'll definitely go check it out.
Yeah, I've had a look. It's not been a massive amount announced, so that's why I'm going to go check it out. Everything else I've mentioned should be available to buy. This one's sort of a preview. And if you like the game, definitely go check it out. Previous years, you've been able to sit down and play the new expansion, so I'm hoping that's available there. Again, if I can get a seat. But this adds what's been described as story cards, or what are called story cards. It seems to add things that are triggered events. So you could play this card. I'm not sure how you play them. I don't know if it's played like a normal card. But then you can remove a dauber from it to trigger the action. Might be, 3 actions on it. And it'll be something like add a skull to the path. So it modifies the stuff that's already out. It looks like it triggers more of the traits on the card, which were slightly underutilized area of the game. And yeah, just mixes it up a bit with a new mechanism. So yeah, it should be interesting. And I hope it's good.
Yeah, I mean, they've always had these. Yeah, they've always had the War of the Ring card game expansions to demo at UKG and buy at Essen. I feel like maybe one year they actually did have the game out at UKG, but maybe I'm misremembering. But yeah, it's a good solid one. I like it. I mean, it will be off-putting, I think, for some people because it's quite a tight resource management game with a lot of card knowledge required to improve your skill. And you enjoy the solo game. I think it wants to be a team game, but maybe the solo mode is good. I have not tried it.
Solo mode is good. I also like playing with other people. I would be willing to try it. I've just not played it.
Yeah, I think it's great at 6. I really liked it. But again, it wants to be a team game, right? Like I've not tried the uneven numbers. I think you have.
Yeah, I've done 3-player.
I think you said it was not as good.
If I recall correctly. It's in Dark Sphere. I can't remember now. No, you definitely you either want the full experience or you want to be doing it.
The full experience or everything on my own.
Yeah. Very nice. So what's your first stop? You get to UK Games Expo. What's the first thing you look at?
Oh, the first one? That's a really good question.
Nothing.
Nothing. I hate games. Well, I've not really ranked mine by any sort of reasonable metric, but I've picked out the ones I'm sort of particularly excited about. I have already booked a preview of Drillers, which is the new one from Czech Games Edition.
So I don't think you've given too much away by saying that CGE have their own platform for playtesting.
Okay.
And obviously this is a very well playtested game.
Well, then you can tell me, because I've booked in a press preview with CG to go check that out. You can tell me, is it worth my time?
Yeah, it says good. I don't think it's Arnak. Let's put it that way. In fact, it doesn't really play like Arnak or anything like that. But I don't know if it'll hit the same heights. But I think so CGE normally put out a really good game every year, and this is their one this year. I'm trying to think, what was the one game they put out that wasn't that good?
I think you're thinking of Deal with the Devil.
Deal with the Devil, yes, because that was awful. Everybody hated that, and they hated playing it, and then I've never played it, so I couldn't tell you, but nobody liked teaching it.
I've played it several times. Yeah. Look, it's an interesting game conceptually. It didn't really manifest what it was trying to do. And I don't know if that's just because you need to play it so many times to get it to do what it wants to do, or if it just couldn't make what it wanted to make happen. Which is to say that it's a game with secret roles where people are trading things in secret, which all sounds really interesting, but in practice just couldn't really manifest, and possibly was hung too much on some traditional Euro mechanisms as well. Anyway, I generally have found CG's titles always worth looking at. I still have a soft spot for Catan Horror, which I quite enjoyed, and so I was keen to look at this new one from them, which appears to be from one more established designer and one new designer, but they've clearly picked it up and developed it in-house. So I'm always happy to go and take a look at that.
Yeah, definitely
because they're definitely a publisher that I'm quite keen on.
Agreed. Not played Catan Horror in a while. Maybe it's worth busting that out again at some point. Couple of games that I own that I think other people should own. So the first one is a Carnivore did it. I own this, but I own the first edition. Now, of the 2,000 scenarios in it, 52 of them don't work perfectly. There was one
unplayable.
Yeah, right. So I mean, it's not nothing, right? It's 2.5% of the games have potentially multiple solutions. So you might not have the same solution that's on the back. So I'm hoping there'll be an update pack. I don't think there will be. All the first editions are done and gone. This will be the second edition with 2,000 completely playable scenarios. It's a fun 5-minute brain workout. And in fact, to get 3 stars, sometimes you only get 2 minutes. You can time yourself. There's different ways of playing it. You're presented with a whole bunch of clues, and you have to figure out who did it. And some of the clues are things like a carnivore did it. Somebody over 162 centimetres did it. And you've got the suspects laid out, and then you've got to figure out who done it. And one of the ways of playing the game is to time yourself and try and get the best solution. I just play it to get it right. Not because I'm so good that I'd just be like a chess timer. But more that it's more fun not doing so. So I'm optimistic. I'm going to go see if there's any kind of plans for an update for the people that have the first edition version. I would imagine not. It's quite a cheap game. Would I buy it again so I don't run into the issues in the future? I don't know, but maybe. But other people should give this a try and go check it out. And then one that you picked up for me at Essen was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And it's a flip and write, and the game is a lot of fun. It smells funny.
Is this a legitimate grievance?
This is a legitimate grievance. Like, you open that box, you're like, whew, that smells funny.
Well, you received it sealed, so you know that this is not something I've done to it. I was there with my board game injection pen, like, yeah. I'm gonna put my evil gas into this board game box and sabotage Barry.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it's printed or what it's printed on, but it does smell funny. Anyway, it's you've got 2 pads. You've got above the ocean and below the ocean. You are in a Nautilus. Everyone gets their own. There's a decent degree of interaction for what you're generally just kind of working on your own boards. But what you don't want to do is do the same action as another player, because then you might end up getting your ship damaged. If you have money to repair it, cool. If not, minus points at the end. You're competing to not have your crew die off, things along those lines. It is, yeah, I've played this a few times, and I think it's worth checking out. If they're there with their other games, which is the 80 Days Around the World and Journey to the Centre of the Earth, different mechanisms, different games entirely, but I'd have a look at those as well.
Well, it's nice that they're there. They definitely had a small stall at Essen, so pleased to see they're traveling and able to attend UKGE. So actually, speaking of hidden roles and trading, I've got a game from 2024, which might be in English for the first time. I don't know. It says here that it's new, but it's not. It's called Obscurians. I just thought this looked really interesting. When I was looking through the list, I was like, what's this? This is some kind of trading game where we're sort of competing to do like a deduction puzzle. Sorry, not competing. We are competing, but maybe also collaborating, but we've got hidden roles and hidden agendas. It's just a lot of stuff that I like the sound of. So I was like, I'll go check that out for sure. It's obviously come out in German or something, and now it's, I think, in English maybe for the first time. I'm not sure. But it's touted as being new at oh my God, I can't get my head out of the fact.
This is the point. They've got a branding issue.
Yeah. So it's apparently it's first sort of time at UKG, maybe in English. So I'm definitely keen to go and have a look at this and see what it's about.
Yeah, I didn't catch this one. I didn't see it. Nice components. Couldn't tell you anything else about it. So
yeah, well, it's hidden agendas, and possibly we're all trying to solve a puzzle and then leverage solving the puzzle quicker than other people, or possibly we have hidden agendas and do you know what? I'm not sure. I'll get a demo of it. I'll let you all know what's going on. But yeah, I just thought it looked neat.
intrigue, deception, and deduction. Yeah, I'm in. Definitely give it a go. One game, I think I maybe mentioned it last year, but I never got a chance to see or demo it, but should be available for purchase, is Spokes. So Spokes is a game of racing around a velodrome, and it's sort of route building. You're taking sort of after sticks, like wooden sticks, and switching them out with one that's on the board to try and make paths to move around this velodrome as quickly as possible. Connecting colours, you can move further. And it's a racing game, route building game. Super simple, very easy to learn the rules. You move your thing around your wheel. You take the spoke. That's the name of the game that you've just passed.
What?
And then you put it down on the board, and then you move as far as you can or want to along that coloured path, trying to build up into sort of the getting around as fast as possible. 3 laps, first past the post. Super easy. It's got team rules, it's got solo rules. I think you can race multiple bikes on your own. Really simple. Looks sort of Knizia in its elegance, shall we say. And the simple rules for emergent gameplay. So probably going to pick this one up, to be honest. And definitely want to play it at least. So I want a full game if I don't.
Yep. I mean, I would definitely be keen to check out Spokes as well. I know that the people who played it at Expo last year were really excited by it. So pleased to see that it's funded and back, and keen to give it a try.
Nice.
I've got a really basic pick on my list because I'm just a very basic person. It's Ape Town. It is a Reiner Knizia game about laying tiles and controlling areas. You know, I've got to try it. We had last year we had Cascadero and Rebirth. No, 2 years ago we had Cascadero and Rebirth, and one was amazing and the other I felt disappointed by. Could this be a Cascadero or a Rebirth?
Ooh.
I don't know, but what I do know is it's about organized crime, but they're monkeys, so I'll give it a try.
Yeah, I think I'm so in this, right? The themes doing a lot, building a lot of the interest, but I'm also a little bit. I'm not that interested in that theme. Like,
yeah, no, I
monkeys.
like the theme does nothing for me. I'm sort of blessed to sit in a position where I'll be with Chris, who is a contributor to the show and very much dislikes crime themed games. I do not think this will trigger that.
He does love monkeys
in him. Well, I don't know his position on monkeys or apes, but I do not think that this will sort of trigger the organized crime distaste in him. Having said that, the thing about Reiner Knizia is that he bats 1,000, he's bound to get some home runs, right?
Yeah.
Is this one of them? I don't know, but I'll try it. For sure, I'll go and try it. And I'll tell you what, Tigris and Euphrates is not like a theme that sets my heart on fire, but the game is great. So, I can get over it if the mechanisms are really good. Do I wish it had a better theme? Yes. Do I, or, maybe not a better theme, a more appropriate theme. Maybe this is telling me that this is more, Space Cats. What was the Space Cats game?
Mlem.
With the rocket ship. Mlem. Yeah. Is this Mlem Space Agencies or whatever it was called? Or is this, not that? I don't know. Maybe the theme is telling me this is not one for me, but I'll still go look at it.
Very cool. I'll give it a go, but I'm not rushing to play it.
Yeah. Exactly. I'll swing by it.
One game, also possibly a buy. In fact, all of these are theoretical buys at least. Threaded. So Osprey Games. Oh, so some news out earlier today, or you might have seen it already, that Osprey Games are parting ways with Bloomsbury Press. What will happen to them, we're not sure, but Threaded's their newest release, and this is a very uniquely themed worker placement game with a little bit of a twist on contract fulfillment. Players are actually, I'm not 100% sure what you are, but you're basically knitters, right? And you're knitting patterns to then sell. So you have to go to the shops to get your thread, complete the patterns that are being asked for, and then your contract fulfillment element is you're going to score points based on the patterns that you produce. With, you know, multicolor being worth like 5 points, or single color patterns being worth 2 points. And so you're trying to complete the patterns that match your contracts to get the most points out of each. So you go to a different space, you're going to get new thread. You go to a different space, you're going to pick up those contracts. You're going to go knit the patterns, those kind of things. And it looks that the spaces look quite tight. Does this go up to 5 players? Let me double check on that. It does go up to 5. And I made a note because of the number of spaces, and the 5s were always blocked out on a lot of them. So I think it's going to be quite tight at most player counts. It is on Board Game Geek best at 3. I wonder if that's just because everybody gets to do what they want. I think I'd like it a little bit more cutthroat. So I think maybe 4 would be a better number for me. I don't know. It looks interesting. It's a game of Bargello embroidery. Now, if I knew anything about embroidery, that might be exciting, but I do not. You have to establish a thriving needlecraft studio by designing and stitching your own gorgeous needlework. So it's a theme that's, I'd say, light on the ground. You know, Calico's got some yarn in it, but it's not really a knitting game. Marrakesh has carpets. Not like the big Marrakesh, the little Marrakesh that's actually good.
Yeah.
He's
correct.
Yeah.
That is a correct opinion.
So yeah, there's not a huge amount of embroidery board games. Maybe this will do for knitting games what Wingspan did for nature games, you know?
Yeah, well, Wingspan, funnily enough, not really that much mechanically about birds. You know, lots of fun bird facts, not so much, you know, when I see birds, I don't think tableaus, you know, or action efficiency. Maybe this is to what you said, something embroidery, as Pulitzer was to the conspiracy board.
Yeah. Could be pins. That had
but
thread.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like. Sorry.
The Pulitzer had thread.
Yeah, Pulitzer actually came with thread, so you know. But you know, I like a good worker placement game. I like a cutthroat worker placement game. I'd definitely be interested in checking that out.
Yep. And it's quite a small box as well, so with shelf space at a premium, always on the lookout for smaller games.
Look, if your box is small, I can hang on to it longer and maybe play it more. I can take it around, you know? I can carry it around. And that's important. I've got, so yeah, again, commemorating the sad parting of ways of Osprey and Bloomberg today. I've got a game on my list from 2 of the designers that work with Osprey all the time, but this is not from Osprey. This is actually from Mighty Boards, and this is For the Gods. So I looked at this on crowdfunding, and I was like, this doesn't seem like a game I need to crowdfund.
Yeah.
It's a light area control game designed by Trevor Benjamin, who does Undaunted and did Resist. You can find my live stream of Resist on the channel if you like. David Thompson, who did Undaunted and War Chest and War Story For What Remains, which is a really fun skirmish game that I've got. The Valiant Defense series, and also Brett Gilbert, who for some reason I haven't listed in the show notes. I don't know why. But I like Trevor Benjamin and David Thompson's designs, so I'll definitely go and have a look at this. I like sort of area control. This is supposed to be light and punchy. All 3 designers are sort of known for that sort of thing as well, so I'm definitely keen to go have a look at For the Gods.
Nice. Yeah, I did see it. It was passing on my radar, but I've not really looked into it too much. I will throw out that Witchcraft now has a digital app on iOS and Android. If you wanted to play a bit of that, it's quite a good one. Same designers, in case anybody's wondering, since you didn't mention it. But yes, Resist and Witchcraft are quite similar games.
Maybe mechanically.
Mechanically.
For me, what was important about Resist was the theme, which is to say the Spanish resistance against the Franco occupation, or the Spanish Civil War.
Yeah, I'm not going to get too into it. I really liked Resist over Witchcraft. I didn't get Witchcraft, but then I bought Witchcraft, and now I've played more Witchcraft than Resist, and I like Witchcraft as well. Anyway, it's a grower. That's my point. Would you believe me if I said I was excited to play Catan? So there is a new version of Catan, right? And it's a card game. Right? Nobody likes Catan. Like, people tell you like Catan, they're kidding you. They want to prank you into playing Catan.
No, people who like Catan like board games but haven't discovered the hobby.
Yeah, true. So yes, I don't particularly like Catan. The negotiation element's the killer for me, and the often longish downtime when you're not involved in those negotiations. Anyway, I played Catan Rivals a few times. I like that, but I've not played it enough to tell you whether it's good or not. I would like to play more of Catan Rivals. Monopoly Deal is a very good game of Monopoly within the context of what it's trying to do as cards, and I'm hoping that Catan on the Road is the same for Catan. So distilling the essence of the game down, for Monopoly that's collecting the sets and bankrupting your friends. For Catan, that is monopolizing the wood and sending robbers out to get your your friends. So I'm hoping that this does the same. It's a card game version of Catan, plays in 10 minutes or whatever, the same as sort of Monopoly Deal. I am very willing to give this a go. I think it will be decent fun.
But if it doesn't come with that moment of betrayal, where I trade you all the wood for all of your stuff,
Monopoly,
and then I play my Monopoly card to pull it all back.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have that, I'm out.
I've not looked at all the cards, but here's hoping.
No, but that could be fun. You're right. Monopoly Deal is a good distillation of Monopoly, and just about the maximum amount of Monopoly I can handle.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested in seeing a distillation of Catan as well. Which is a game that is also wildly variable depending on your table and how much they're into the trading.
True.
Well,
yeah.
I'll go and check out, while you're looking at Catan on the Road, I'm going to go check out DreamEscape. Are you aware of this?
I have seen it. It did not pique my interest enough to get into it.
Yep, it looks like it came out like a year ago. I will go and check it out. It is a cooperative choose-your-own-adventure story with sort of a robust gamer system underneath, set in the Cthulhu mythos. Like, there are a lot of offerings of this exact same thing. Barry has an enormous number of them. I just liked the look of this one, and it's going to be there. So I thought, and the thing is, one of the things that was appealing about it was that it did come out a year ago, and people seem to like it.
The people do not like the rulebook.
They don't like. Well, then it'd be good to have a demo.
Yeah, the rulebook's apparently quite bad. Something which I know something about.
Yeah, you've got some experience. We've all got some experience with bad rulebooks, and that can be a deal breaker. I will say a bad rulebook is probably the worst thing you can possibly do for your game. If you do anything, hire someone to look at your rulebook, hire someone to critique it. There are people out there that do that and take your money to do it, and should do a professional job. But if people can't play your game or can't play it correctly or have a frustrating experience trying to play it, how can you expect them to like it and recommend it, even if it's fantastic?
Correct.
You know, fix your rule books first, people. Anyway,
agreed.
Anyway, I'll go check out DreamEscape. It could be fun. I like cooperative storytelling games, and so I might like this.
I don't know if it's any good. I'll do a couple. One game is Fame and Fable, which is a competitive hero building game. It looks a little bit like an alt art Eternal Dix, if that helps anybody visualize anything. This is the first game from Owen Davey. And basically there's like a few tableaus for you to build your deck with, and you're fighting the monsters and you're getting points. And it's laid out in a way that's quite reminiscent of Eternal Dix, and the style of it is super cool, but not quite the same as Eternal Dix. I have backed this one. I'm waiting on that delivering. I would like to get my hands on it and give it a go. So hopefully be able to do that there. And then another game that is coming hopefully very soon to people who have backed it is the game Smallfolk. And then we spoke about that in passing last year. I don't think it's there to buy yet. I don't think it's fulfilled. I think it's still just sort of demo time there. But from Rocknest Games, and this is a tableau builder, that set collection type game. I didn't get a chance to play it last year. A lot of my friends did. One of them backed it, so I'll play their copy, but I wouldn't mind giving this a full play or at least a partial play before that happens.
Yep, we played the demo at UKG last year, 4-player game in full. It was great. I really liked it. I'd definitely be keen to get my hands on a copy of this, should the opportunity come up. It looks fantastic. We'll see. We'll see what the final production copy is like, but I mean, the production looked great. Actually, this is not a criticism of that. It looked great. I think I'd really enjoy this one. It's sort of a light action selection tableau builder where you're managing all these different cards in a joint marketplace, and everyone's got sort of a special power they can trigger. It's sort of reminiscent in a way of Race for the Galaxy. Certainly some aspects, not without because the cards are the resource that you use to play the cards as well, but also not without its, they took out the I choose, you follow system from Race, and instead they put in an actual race. So there's sort of a worker placement racetrack that you actually move along and race around. And I think the people that get to different spots first will get advantages and also, potentially have some influence over the end of the game as well.
Man,
but yeah, keen to check that out. I've got Night at the Zoo on here. I feel like this is one that I could possibly sell to my sort of lighter game friends. So this is by Tomasz Holak, who probably primarily from SETI, and published by Albi, but they're a publishing company that I've sort of encountered first at Essen, and then have seen them sort of go from strength to strength and get more and more titles. And they seem to be sort of publishing interesting things. This looks like a sort of a kid's game where you're sort of route building and pathing. It says it's a sort of a puzzle game. It looks really cute. I think I know people who would enjoy this. I am interested in looking at it in more detail.
Yeah, it looks interesting. The animals are out of their cages. You've got to help them back in before the day breaks.
Yeah, they basically go on like a little nighttime adventure, and then you have to get them home safely. Yep. It's a theme I can get behind. Albeit, I'm not sure how I feel about modern zoos. Let's not get into that. The pieces seem cute, and do you know what? Like, if it's the kind, what I'm looking for is that magic sweet spot where it's the puzzly part of it engages me, and also engages the lighter gamers that I'd be playing this with. Like it's sort of we're all contributing kind of vibe. So yeah, keen to have a look at that.
Nice. We've spoken about War of the Ring, but of course now that Asmodee has the Tolkien Estates whatever it's called, licensed to stamp on games. Expect to see some more, but then this is one of them. So Lord of the Rings Circle of Conflict. So this is a game, a roll and write, where I think you've got a shared pool of dice, and on your board you are building up both the Free People's Army and the Shadow forces, and you attack with the Free People's Army to your left, and they defend on their right, and similarly you defend on your right with your Shadow against the Free People's, or back and forth. There's probably some mutual assured destruction there. So it's like a dry erase roll and write. You've got your panel, which seems to be secret. You're filling it in, and then I think at the end you're probably going to reveal it and resolve who's winning what battlegrounds all around. So works well at 2-player. You're faced off against the person opposite you, but any number of players could probably sit in and just go round in a circle. So you always have you want the weaker player to your right. A lot of games like that. So this is do we say this was Office Dog, who did River of Gold, and have they done anything else yet?
I thought Office Dog did the Lord of the Rings the Trick Taking game.
They did do the Lord of the Rings the Trick Taking game, correct? Oh, and the Hobbit there and back again. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, specifically with what we know about them is they're actually the in-house development team for Asmodee. But they're really like sort of a small offshoot doing like their, sort of own things at Asmodee that they want to be doing. And I guess they're allowed to do that because they seem to keep making Lord of the Rings stuff. And given that they have the license, they want to be making some use of that license. So,
This is game 432 in the Lord of the Rings.
Well, and like the thing is as well, it's designed by Stephen Bonacore, who people will know as the founder of Stronghold Games. He did Shadows over Camelot, and he did and I mean they were the ones that discovered Terraforming Mars. So like he's an industry veteran, and then it's Jeff Engelstein, who is a designer that doesn't have that many games to his name, but has done some good ones and also has been around a really long time. I think, the standout ones from Jeff are probably, for me anyway, games that I might have mentioned on the podcast before: Space Cadets, Versailles 1919, and the Expanse board game, which is surprisingly good. They're both veterans. So that's why I'm interested, right? If you told me roll and write and you attack the people on either side, I'd be like, oh, that's like, that's just like the Seven Wonders roll and write. You do that in that too.
Yeah.
You just compare your little sword to their little shields and then get some points maybe. But when you add in industry veterans and some hidden information, suddenly I'm like, okay, I'm interested now.
Jeff Engelstein has one of my very few rated 1 games.
Oh no, which one's that?
Space Cadets Dice Duel.
I haven't played the Dice Duel variant.
But the guy in the middle rolls some dice to give the people to his left and right some dice, and they roll some dice until they get the number they want, and then they give it back to the guy in the middle. Oh, I hated it.
I haven't played it. Well, the original Space Cadets was quite fun. At least I recall it being quite fun. It's been a long time since
I think I'm in the minority for that one.
The Dice Duel?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Versailles 1919, actually very good. And then the one I've actually kept in my collection is The Expanse, the board game, because I like Expanse a lot and it's really good.
Did you get a chance to see Shug at last year's Expo?
Yeah, so I've crossed paths with Shug a few times. We saw them at AirCon as well, actually. I think that Shug is really cute and has a really sort of fun ideology. I've not actually had a chance to play the full game.
Yeah.
And so, it's sort of like a party game. It's a party game race game, right? You've got a deck of and one of the people on the team is the artist, and the art's great. It's very Terry Gilliam, and it's got a real sort of tongue-in-cheek, lighthearted sensibility, which I totally get behind. The board itself is actually a big fantasy land with lots of squares, and you're playing little guys running around on this board trying to find the Shug and bring it to the tavern, or I think possibly you can overthrow the king as well. The thing is, you're going to when you move around on the board, there's different landscapes and stuff, but what you're actually going to be doing is pulling these cards, and they're going to give you challenges, and those challenges are like fun sort of party game style challenges, like name 5 different kinds of cheese in 30 seconds, stuff like that, So it's got this real sort of like fun party game vibe that you have to manage. And we played through that deck by just flipping over the challenges and doing the challenges, and we had a really good time. It was really fun. It's very clear that I think this has sort of come from them playing a party game. Now, where the board comes into it, I'm not really sure. Part of me wonders, given that the deck's so fun, do we really need the board? But I have not had a chance to play with the board. Maybe it adds like a lot of tension as people race around the board. I think you can also like sort of go and sabotage each other on it. So that might be really entertaining. I don't know. I would be keen to sit down and sort of play the full game and see what it's all about.
Yeah, I'm somewhat. I've seen some of the other cards, but I'm looking at some pictures. The Oily Baron, name 7 types of whales in 30 seconds. Okay, fun the first time it comes up. In future times, is it just auto pass?
Do you remember the whales?
Yeah.
Do you remember the whales from last time? Did someone get 7?
Yeah.
But I think that might be sort of an element. I mean, that's an element of all of these sort of party games. I mean, I've not had too much of an issue with these games generally, because I just don't retain this stuff. No, it's like Timeline, right? I would have thought by now I'd know when that stuff was invented. No. But every time the thing comes out, I can never remember when it came out, when it was invented. But I definitely, I mean, part of me wonders if it's not going to be a bit too sort of, the board's almost a bit too formal and long, given how lighthearted the sort of substance of the game is. But like I said, I haven't had a chance to play with that, so I haven't seen the full thing. And if it adds a sort of a sense of tension or gravitas to the lighthearted card play, I'm always here for it. Like, I love a game that's like, here's a hobby sort of element, but also it's goofy and silly, like Galaxy Trucker.
Yeah. Very cool.
So my last one is Ruined Path. This is a 30-minute solo deck building game, which is so not my normal vibe, but full transparency, this is designed by Tristan Hall for Hall and Nothing Productions, who's a personal friend of mine and whose games I have enjoyed. So take it what you will. I'd like to go see what he's working on. Generally speaking, his card games are fun, and I enjoy them. So, and deck building, I like deck building. I like solo deck building sometimes because you don't have to worry about it being especially well balanced. You can just make something gross, and it doesn't matter that your turns are 30 minutes because you're all by yourself.
You're always engaged, yeah. I have looked at this. Have you played Friday?
I've not played Friday, but I've heard you talk about Friday.
Yes. So this game is Friday.
Oh. In a good way or a bad way?
Well, so I enjoy Friday. Friday was one of the very early solo games, one of the very early sort of deck builder as well that I got into. And you get into a rhythm with it. Like my first game, I was like, I don't know what's going on. I can't beat this game. And then my next game, same. And my next game, the same. And then my fourth game was like, oh, wait, now I kind of see what I'm doing. And then, I played a lot of games, and it got to the point where I could kind of ramp up to the highest difficulty that was offered. And there's some luck involved, and there's some, you learn the deck and you learn the skills involved. And the key thing for Friday is your risk reward on thinning your deck. You can kind of kill off cards in your deck and just be left with sort of the good ones that you're earning. I have had a quick look at the rules for this. It doesn't seem to be the same thing, but I do wonder. The rest of the mechanisms are quite similar. You have 2 cards to pick from. You try and defeat one of them. You get a certain number of cards to do it, and then if you get it, you flip it around, put it into your deck for the next time, and the 3 levels. Like it is so much like Friday. It is Friday. There's a couple of extra bits. in it, but I would probably have liked to see a few more innovations for something that very, very closely mirrors the gameplay loop of Friday, as well as the look and like the layout and the systems. That doesn't seem to be adding enough different that I wouldn't recommend, that I would be rushing to it over Friday. So again, hopefully he's not that close a friend, but there's nothing wrong with using the same mechanisms in the game, right? But
yeah, well, like there's nothing wrong with being derivative or being inspired. Yes. I would, like I'd say, if you like Friday and you want more Friday, maybe go take a look at it, see for yourself what you think about it. If you've never played Friday, we know for sure that's good. Try that first, if you're interested in sort of a solo deck builder puzzle type situation. If you're particularly into fantasy themes, this one's got that for you. It might not be as good as Friday, so there's that.
It might be.
Or maybe it might be better.
Yeah, correct. Like there is some differences there, right? It's not like you just copied the cards one for one, but the whole loop is identical. So
yeah,
it'd be interesting to see what the bits that he has changed adds.
Yes. Well, and I couldn't tell you because I have not played Friday. No. So what I can do is try this and tell you if I like it.
Yeah.
And then, someone who's played Friday can try it and tell us what they think about that.
Happy to cast my hat into the ring. My last one is a game that isn't even crowdfunding for like another till the end of the year probably, but it seems to be everywhere at the moment, and it does look quite fun, and that is Personal Demons. So Personal Demons is I want to say a tableau builder. You've got a fixed grid for your tableau. You're playing cards, simultaneous reveal, and that earns you certain currencies within greed, envy, wrath, those kind of things, which you can then spend to get new cards to go into your tableau. And you're trying to make patterns and match symbols in the corner to earn the most points as you go. The art style is sort of medieval demon scrolls. I don't know how you describe that, to be honest. There must be a name for that style of art. I would say illumination, like scroll illumination. I'm not sure. But it looks quick. Sort of 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Goes up to 6 players with the expansion. But much like Seven Wonders or any of those drafting games, it's simultaneous reveal to do your stuff. So any number of players can theoretically play in the same amount of time. And you're looking to build a little engine with the abilities of the things that you're putting down, match those symbols, and score your points. So looks like fun. Quite a unique looking game, and something I'd be keen to actually get hands on with before the crowdfunding campaign begins.
Yeah, I would be. So this looks gorgeous. I like the idea of it. I'm so here for the simultaneous play. I'm conscious that this is designed by Judson Cowan, and I was not super impressed with Deep Regrets.
Yes.
So I would definitely want to try this before playing it. I think Deep Regrets is something that possibly could have been improved by simultaneous play, because it would be over quicker.
Yeah. It's quite long.
Well, and also you didn't do a whole lot on your turns. I mean, I know a lot of people who've had a good time with Deep Regrets. Maybe it just wasn't for me, but the art's gorgeous, and the art for Deep Regrets was also phenomenal. So I'd definitely be interested in checking out the design.
And also, Judson has a video on YouTube about the whole process and crowdfunding and getting a game made. It's really good. I recommend watching that if you've got any interest in the publishing or the development side of board games as well.
No, that's cool. It's always nice when people are putting out free resources like that.
Yeah. Anyway, like,
and sorry, how can people find that? That's on his YouTube channel?
His YouTube channel, yeah.
Which is called Judson Cowan, or is it called Tetrix Games? Tetrix?
It's on Tetrix Games, yeah.
Yeah, it's Tettix Games.
And it's the video I think is called Dredging Up Fun, a board game design primer.
There you go.
But yeah, there's 100 games, give or take, that have at least made me interested enough to go check out. Things that have been out, I've not had a chance to look at, and things that are new, things I've highlighted, few things I want to buy, few things think's worth checking out, and few things that I think you should buy.
Well, we will, of course, I think, probably reconvene post-convention to talk about what actually happened, having talked over our intentions.
Yep.
You never know. Things happen. We'll find out who won the Exmoor tournament.
For those of you watching at home, the Boris Shuffle preview trophy, it's got a fox.
And that could be yours.
That could be.
And
it's not going to be because you got to get through.
The good news is, yeah. Oh, are you playing?
I'm playing.
I was literally about to say the good news is Barry's not playing.
No.
But he is. So
I bought my ticket.
Do you think you could? Is that not a conflict of interest, running and competing?
No, it's not like I'm putting the scores in where I've just won every time, right? So. Judge's call. Oh no, you've done that wrong. I get 100 points.
Keep your eye on that. Keep your eyes on those scores, folks. And, see if you can take that trophy away from Barry.
Yeah, I think Hannah will be there. That's from Lookout as well. So he will. I think he's only there himself this year, so he's not got anybody helping run the tournaments. But I will step in.
Brilliant. Well, sounds good. We'll catch up with all of that in a couple of weeks, or whenever we get round to it, because it's actually still not yet time for. It'll be still a couple of weeks till UKGE when you're hearing this, and what that means is if you want to know what we saw, if we found anything surprising, how we got on with our demos, make sure you subscribe or follow or notifications. I don't know. Yeah, this is on like 4 or 5 platforms and they're all different. I don't know, but you know, because you know where you found it and you know what to do. Our preferred way to fund the show is through the Patreon, so a big thanks to all the patrons who've supported the show and helped with the equipment that makes all this happen. And of course, thanks to Barry for joining me and for contributing today.
No, happy to be here.
We'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.